I mean, that we're commanded, right? One of the things that we're commanded to do as Jews is to recite the oneness of God every day, twice a day, right? This is one of the great mitzvot. Where does it say this, right? It says right where we read Kriyat Shema, right? ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה, these words shall be, right? אשר נוחים מצווך היום על לבבך, they should be on your heart. ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, so it says you should speak about them, ודיברת בם, speak about them. What does that mean? Recite them. בשבתך בביתך, when you're singing home, ובלכתך בדרך, when you're going on the road, ובשכבך ובקומך, when you're going up, getting down, in the morning when you're waking up, in the night when you're going down, when you're going to sleep, right? All these times, so a person has to say Kriyat Shema. This is the idea, right? To recite the Shema. But really, the truth is that the mitzvah Kriyat Shema has a lot of details, a lot of facets that are involved, right? I guess the first thing we should, discuss about Kriyat Shema is what actually do we have to read? How much do we have to read, right? Because there's all kinds of versions, the long version, the short version, right? There's all kinds of things. So what is really the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema, right? So the truth is that there's two different levels here. And maybe you could say even more, right? There's 3 or 4 actually above that as well. The first level is from the Torah, right? What part of the Kriyat Shema are we commanded from the Torah to read? So according to most opinions, the most authoritative opinions, right, it's just the first verse basically, right? Which says, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. This is from the Torah, the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema. Just that first verse. There are some who say also, there's another opinion, that they say also the first paragraph as well is from the Torah. But according to the prevailing opinion, we're going to see, right, for several reasons. For many reasons, the prevailing opinion is not like that. The prevailing opinion is that only the first verse, the first pasuk, is from the Torah, and the rest of it is from the rabbis. That's what it is. It's rabbinical, right? The rabbis added more stuff there that the Torah doesn't really require from us. That's the idea.
First time you say it is after as you're putting on tefillin?
Oh, so we're going to talk about the connection also with tefillin, right? Like you asked, we're going to talk about that too.
Yes.
I just want to first point out, right, this issue of the size of the Kriyat Shema, what actually you have to read.
Okay.
So now, right, as we said, that the custom now is to read 3 paragraphs, basically, right? So what does that mean? All the other paragraphs that we read are not from the Torah, right? Just the first verse is from the Torah. That's the idea, right? The other ones are from the rabbis. So what is the reason why the rabbis added these things, right? Because each paragraph has a certain purpose there also, fulfills a certain purpose of certain things that we have to cover as well, right? First of all, right, Ol Malchut Shamayim. The first paragraph is talking about the kingdom, accepting the kingdom of heaven upon yourself, right? The first pasuk. Then Ol Mitzvot, right? The second one is the mitzvot you have to accept upon yourself. That's the second paragraph, right? What about the third paragraph, Vayomer? Right? What does that do? What's the goal of that? That's talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim, going out of Mitzrayim. That we're commanded every day to read that we went out of Egypt. That's our Tuesday class, right? That's the connection, right? There's always a connection, always something, right? So going out of Egypt, a person has to mention that every day. Something amazing, right? Once in the daytime and once in the night, you have to mention that. Right? That's what we say, right? Ani Adonai Elohecha asher hotziati otcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I took you out of Mitzrayim, it says, right? Every day you got to read that. Can you imagine? Right? So this is also a very important mitzvah. You ever see, by the way, remember, if you go to your family Haggadah, on Pesach, right? We read this in Haggadah. It says over there that Ben Zoma over there, right? One of the Tanaim. His name is Ben Zoma, right? He says over there that I didn't know where was written the obligation of mentioning coming out of Mitzrayim every day. So right? It wasn't Ben Zoma. Ben Zoma was who answered the code. The one who asked the question was Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, right? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who was a Kohen, and he was the chief of the court at one time, right? For a certain reason, he was appointed, even though he was very young. He was only 18 years old. Can you imagine? 18-year-old kid gets appointed to be the chief of the High Court. That's what happened with him. So he says, you know what? I was appointed at the age of 18, but what happened was the Kadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle for him. You know what the miracle was, right? That his hair turned gray. He became like he looked like me. No, I guess he looked better than me, but whatever. At least the hair was gray, right? Whatever. So what happened was that why did this happen to him? This miracle that his hair turned gray. Well, what happened? He had a lot of tension in his life. He had a lot of nervousness. What turned his hair into gray?
It's wisdom.
Oh, okay, wisdom. So then why did it all of a sudden just jump on him like that? In one shot, all of a sudden, poof.
To respect him.
So you know what? Yeah, it's true. But why does he deserve more respect today than deserved yesterday? What happened? So what happened was like this, right? That Rabbi Gamliel, who was the chief of the court, right? He was the prince. He was the Nasi, the president. He was the president of the court, Rabbi Gamliel, right? What happened was Rabbi Gamliel had a feud with one of the other rabbis, right? Rabbi Eliezer. So because of this feud, they asked him to step down. This was like the feud got a little bit ugly. So he went a little bit too far to punish Rabbi Eliezer. He embarrassed him, disgraced him. So you know what, the rabbis of this court, they said, you know what, you really exaggerated here. You went out of bounds. You went out of bounds. So therefore they said, you know what, we have to remove you from the leadership of the court. They removed him. So then there was a whole discussion, right, who to put in his place. So in the end they decided to put Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That's the one who got put, right? He was only 18 years old.
Rabbi Gamliel after that.
I'm sorry?
Rabbi Gamliel after that.
He was there, but he wasn't the president anymore. You understand? They removed him. The demotion. He got demoted. That's what happens, right? When you get a little bit too crazy, right?
For the other guy?
Right, exactly. So what happened was, So what happened was that they removed him. So they put Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That day that he was appointed to be the chief, his hair turned gray. Bah! All of a sudden, right? So what was the reason? As you said, right, that they should respect him. What does that mean? Now that you're the chief of the court, that you're an 18-year-old kid, who's going to respect you? They're going to say, give me a break, what? Maybe we should give you a lollipop, What is this? You're going to be our chief? We're all older than you. Who are you to be our chief? So therefore, right, the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him this gray hair in order that he should be respected. That was the whole idea. Understand?
They knew he was still 18 years old, they knew.
Yeah, they knew, but a picture is worth 1,000 words, you know what I mean? When you look older, people treat you as older. That's what happens, right? That's the way it is, There's also another trick, right? If you want to look a little bit more mature, grow a beard also, right? The beard will also make you look more mature. You know how it is, right? It makes you different, makes you look different. Yeah. So this was what happened, right? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah asks over there in Haggadah, he says, the day that he was appointed, right? He says, I'm like a 70-year-old man. What does that mean? I'm 18, but I look like I'm 70. Because all my hair turned gray. So he says, but he said, also with his wisdom, he was very wise. Otherwise, they wouldn't have appointed him, right? You know what I mean? Right. The truth is, right, he wasn't the greatest scholar there. That's the whole thing, right? He was not the greatest. Rabbi Akiva was there. Rabbi Akiva was better than him. So why didn't they put Rabbi Akiva? You know what it was? This is the family issue, right? That what? That Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah came from very big people. He had like a line of, great people that he came from. So his family was considered to be like, a very prominent family, right? Yeshivish, right? Yeah, prominent family. Right? Who did he come from, by the way? He came from Ezra, right? Ezra Sofer. All the way. Can you imagine? Came all the way from Ezra. So he was directly descended from Ezra. So he was, right? This is a very big family, illustrious Torah family. Kohanim also, right? Kohanim as well, right? So what happened was, yes, Zchut Avot, right, exactly. And that's exactly what Rabbi Akiva didn't have, right? Rabbi Akiva his father was a convert, So what Zchut Avot did he have? What merit did he have of his forefathers? Right? His father was a regular Joe, whatever, converted from some other, nation, whatever, right?
Powerhouse though. Nobody could in the generation, right? Yeah.
So, but Rabbi Akiva was the best, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, because he didn't have Zchut Avot, they didn't want to appoint him. Can you imagine? Why? We discriminate like that? We say what? We discriminate and we say what? Because your father wasn't a rabbi, we're not going to appoint you? Is that true? Huh? Not really. So then what's the story over there? You know what the story is? The story is like this, right? That the problem was not because his father was not a rabbi. They didn't care about that. So what was the problem? The problem was they knew that if he was going to be appointed. You know what happens when you get appointed, right? Everybody's jealous of you. You know, they're looking at you. Why this guy, you know? Who are you to be appointed? Who are you? You know what I mean? Who are you? You're going to be our boss now? You're going to be our president? What is this business? So they were afraid that if Rabbi Akiva would be appointed, what happened was, the rabbis would put eye on him, you know? And they would kill him because of that. You understand? So when you get eyed like that, you need like zchut avot, you need merit of the fathers to be saved.
That's what protected the other guy?
Exactly, right. That's what protected him. You understand? The zchut avot protected. That's why they didn't want to appoint Rabbi Akiva. This was the reason, right? You understand? This is something really...
He himself was so great, he could not avert all this?
So you see, right, that zchut avot also has a lot of, you see? It has a lot of value, right? Especially, you know, when a person comes from one of the tribes, that has a lot of value, you know? But when you come from you know, not one of the tribes, you just come from, you know, outside. So there, you can get shaken up pretty easily. You know, they can shake you up with their eye, you know? They say, right, the eye of the rabbis is something very dangerous, you know what I mean? If they look at you in the wrong way, they can finish you. Right? You know, these stories that are brought down in Talmud.
Right.
You know, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, he looked at a couple of people, just one wink, you know, and finished them off like this, you know? Turned into a bag of bones.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? He became a bag of bones. Burned them alive. Just with one little glance. Same thing with Rabbi Yochanan, right? They used to, Rabbi Yochanan used to look at somebody, he didn't like him, you know, whatever, something upset him. One little look, he had long eyebrows, you know, so he had like this tweezer. He would lift it up like this, and you look at him, finished. That's it.
He had long eyebrows?
Right, that's what it was, yeah. Right. Yes.
Really? It covered his eyes?
Right, that's what it was. He had like these long eyebrows. So he would do he would lift it up like this, and look at him, finished, right?
Wow.
That's what he did to Resh Lakish. He killed him like that. Right? Resh Lakish, he killed him like that.
His own student.
Yeah, his own student, yeah, can you imagine? He got upset at him, just one look, that's it, finished, right? I'm going to finish him off. So this is exactly what they were afraid of, you know, that maybe the rabbis are going to do this to Rabbi Akiva, you know, because they're going to be jealous of him, whatever. They're not, you know, they're going to have like qualms about him, you know. Who are you to be our chief? Your father, you know, your father was some kind of a, you know, came from the outside, foreigner, you know. Who are you? What kind of thing is this? So this is the reason why, you know, this is the reason why they didn't want to put him, because they were afraid for his life. Can you imagine? They should die. He shouldn't die. You know?
Well, he was the worthy one.
In terms of scholarship, he was the best. Yeah, nobody was like him. Yeah. Why is that? Because really, the Gadol Hador in that generation was who? It was Rabbi Eliezer, right? So, but Rabbi Eliezer was the one who had the fight with Rabbi Gamliel, so they couldn't put him. You know, this was like, you know, they were the ones who had the fight. So if you put the other guy, you know, that's going to look like really bad, right? Like, you know, you're favoring him, you know, over Rabbi Gamliel. You know, this was Rabbi Gamliel had the zchut avot. What does that mean? He was from the Nessim. He was from presidents. He was from King David. You know, he was from King David, right? So he had a special zechut, you know, that he was from King David. On the other hand, right, Rabbi Akiva came from converts, but they couldn't put Rabbi Eliezer because he was in the fight. So therefore, they put Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. Okay, well, anyway, there wasn't our discussion to talk about this, but anyway, right, what happened was that Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says like this, right? I'm 70 years old. What does that mean? I have a wisdom of a 70-year-old, but I still don't know what is the source that we have to say, right? Yetziat Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt every day and like this. I don't know where the source comes from that we have an obligation. I know there's an obligation, but I don't know what's the source. You know? So he says, you know what? One day came Ben Zoma, he taught me what's the source for that, right? That's in the Agadah.
Didn't Ben Zoma fail in the end?
That's a different story. That was before that. That was before the whole... Right. Yes. At that time, Ben Zoma was healthy and happy. Baruch Hashem. He was healthy. Right. Yes. Yes. Okay, very good. So anyway, what happened was that from there we learn, right, the source of also saying Yetziat Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt. You have to mention that too. So basically, look at all the things that we're doing in Kriyat Shema, right? First of all, we're doing the oneness of God, declaring the oneness of God. And by the way, this is considered to be a very big thing, this thing, the oneness of God. You know how great it is? They say, right, if the soldiers go out in a war against their enemies, right, the Jewish soldiers, if they have no other merit besides the fact that they said Kriyat Shema, that will save them. Can you imagine? They before they went out to the war, they just said the first pasuk, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. That's it. They went out, they're going to win the war.
Is that powerful?
That's how powerful it is. Why? Because when you declare the oneness of God, that means you're all the goyim that worship these idols. Mr. J, Mr. K, Mr. Right, all these guys. These idols. You know what I mean? So the Jew that doesn't worship these things, that makes him already superior. That's enough to win the war. That's it. That's enough already. The oneness of God is Adonai Echad. That's it. It's enough. Right? That's a very, very important thing, very powerful thing. And from the Torah, that's enough. That's all you need to say. Right? And because of this, by the way, there's a story brought down in the Gemara about this. That what? Something amazing used to happen right in those days in the Talmud, which we don't have today. These kinds of things. Unfortunately, we don't have it because we really should. But you know what it was? The thing was like this: that they used to have like an all-night class. We only learned for an hour over here, right? But those guys had an all-nighter, kind of like all-nighter thing.
One day.
Can you imagine? They had this. They would get all the community would come together, everybody from everywhere. Like the whole Jamaat, would come. One big place, thousands and tens of thousands of people, scores of people.
Trump rally.
Where was this? What are you talking about? When was it?
I'm sorry.
When was it? Where?
In times of Talmud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In times of Mishnah.
Okay. Little talk.
Right. So what happened? This was a regular occurrence. They used to have it like once a year, twice a year. This thing, It was a special gathering of all the community. So what happened was like this. Rabbi Gamliel used to teach this class. He was the one who used to teach. He was the president, Yeah. President, President is a president, We're not talking about the presidents of today who don't even know, they don't even know alphabet, They don't even know how to, They don't even know how to read Hebrew, these people. These people, to the presidents of today.
I'm sorry. A little tangent. Were there other Tanaim in the audience that were not mentioned in the Gemara?
Everybody was there. Everybody had to come. When the president speaks, everybody has got to show up. It's a matter of respect, It's a matter of respect.
Right.
So what happened was like this, right? They used to come there, and they used to learn all night. Can you imagine? All-nighter, Mishmar, going all night like that. And what happened was that they used to go into the morning as well. Into the morning. And guess what? This is a surprise, right? Surprise, surprise. They didn't stop to daven shachrit. They didn't stop. In the morning, what do we do? When we learn all night in Shavuot, right? What do we do, right? In the morning we stop, and we say shachrit.
Nice.
We gotta daven, gotta pray in the morning. You can't just keep going learning, like that. But in those days they used to do that. That's what they used to do. They didn't pray. No prayers. Sorry. You understand? No shachrit, no talit, no tefillin, no nothing. Zero. Why? Good question, right? So, you have an answer? You have an answer for why so? Right? So the answer is like this, right? That when it comes to Talmud Torah, nothing gets in the way of Talmud Torah, right? In other words, prayers doesn't reach the level of Talmud Torah. So therefore, when you're learning, nothing should be interrupting you. You're absolved from all the other mitzvot.
Are you?
When there's a public learning session like that going on. I'm not talking about you learning privately in your own home. That's something else. Then you got to stop. It's true, right? At least in our generation, right? But that was a public learning session, all of them doing together. This is much, much more important than prayers, which is only derabanan. Most of the prayers are derabanan. It's only rabbinical. So what, you're going to take away this great mitzvah of the public learning session and do some derabanan mitzvot? That makes no sense. Rabbinical things. So what they used to do when the time for Kriyat Shema used to come, they didn't stop the session, the learning session. When time of Kriyat Shema came in the morning. So what would they do? You know what they did? All they did was, Rabbi Gamliel, right, as he was saying the lecture, he had also like a orator there that was helping him, right? What does that mean? He would tell him, and this guy would say it out loud, because he had a stronger voice, whatever. He was just like, so he was like an orator. So what happened was like this, right? That he would tell him, okay, say this now. You know, say this. While the guy's saying that, right, translating whatever he's doing, Rabbi Gamliel would like pass like over his eyes like this, right, in his hand, and say, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. That was all he did, and then he would continue learning. Right, exactly. Since it's from the Torah, so therefore he would stop just to say that. But he made it in a way which they didn't have to stop because the translator was, or the orator was going and teaching them, right? So this way there was no break at all. You understand? This is the only thing that he did. So what do we see from there, right? That's really the most important part of Kriyat Shema, the first pasuk. So this has also a practical application as well in our times. The practical application is like this, right? Now let's say a person, for instance, right, is going to bed. And he's very tired, you know? He had a long day. You know, it's been one of those days, you know what I mean? Sometimes, just like you're knocked out, and like, you need like a crane to get you back up once you go to that, you know? Get a crane, right? So, what happens like this, right? So, now, the question is like this. I have to say it, before I go to bed, I gotta say Kriyat Shema. That's a Jewish custom, right? So, it says the Gemara, but it depends on how tired you are. In other words, if you're not so tired, say the whole thing, all 3 paragraphs, right? Say. But if you're tired so much, you can't say. Just say the first pasuk and go to bed. That's it. Finished. That's halakha. That's halakha. You know what I mean? So a person who's really, really tired, the first pasuk was enough. Same thing also applies in a different place. It says in Shulchan Aruch. Let's say a person in the morning, right? You know, you have like, you know, you're going to prayers, and you also want to take your brother with you or somebody like that, you know, or your son, right? Whatever. So now things like this, right? This guy's sleeping, you know, he's like sleeping like a log. You know what I mean? He's not going to get up if you don't shake him up a little bit, you know. Hey, wake up! Oh, you know. So the question is, right? Person in that situation, you have to really bother him, like to wake him up like that. So let's go, you know, let's go, pull out, man. You're going to miss Kriyat Shema, you know, you're going to sleep all morning, what are you going to do? Be a bum? What are you going to do, right? So, says the Shulchan Aruch, right? If he's really tired, the guy, just wake him up for the first pasuk, you know, and let him sit, and then let him go back, because